You are listening to HOA Violation Vault. I wish this was exaggerated. She is standing in my driveway at 7 in the morning, waving a clipboard in one hand and a handheld infrared thermometer in the other, yelling that my sidewalk is a liability and I am getting fined $300. I just finished clearing the walk 20 minutes ago. The snow stopped falling an hour before sunrise. I can still see the scrape marks from my shovel in the slush. I decide what counts as cleared, not you, she shouts, jamming the thermometer at the concrete like she is taking a fever reading on a sick patient. The screen flashes a number I cannot read from this angle. She is wearing a blue puffer coat, red earmuffs, and she has orange cones scattered across the end of my driveway, in a pattern that makes no sense. One cone is blocking the mailbox. Another is tipped over in a snowbank. I am sorry, what I say, still holding the shovel. I cleared it. You can see I cleared it. She taps the thermometer screen. This says 34 degrees. That is above freezing. Ice can form. You are creating a slip hazard by leaving moisture on the surface. The association requires dry pavement within 2 hours of snowfall cessation. I have lived in Cedar Frost Snow Route Association in Colorado Springs, Colorado, for exactly 11 days. I moved here because the rent was reasonable, and I needed a quiet place to decompress after my last job nearly killed me. I work as an insurance fraud investigator, which means I recognize patterns fast, and I know when someone is building a paper trail to screw me. This woman, Cynthia Evans, is the records custodian for the HOA, and she has been circling my property every morning since I moved in, taking photos with her phone and muttering into a voice recorder. I thought she was just a busybody. Now I realize she is setting me up. Show me the rule, I say. I want to see the exact language. She smiles, thin and sharp. It is in the winter addendum. You signed acknowledgement when you moved in. I did not sign anything about dry pavement, I tell her. I signed a standard lease and a one-page HOA agreement that said I have to shovel within 24 hours of a storm. That is it. Her smile does not move. Well, the board updated the policy in November. All residents were notified by email. I check my phone right there in the driveway, scrolling back through my inbox. No email. No notification. Nothing. I hold the screen up to show her. I never got that email. Then you need to update your contact information with the office, she says, already turning away. The fine stands. You will receive a formal notice by end of business today. She walks off, cones still blocking my driveway, and I am left standing in the cold with a shovel and no idea how to fight a rule that apparently does not exist in writing. I go inside and pull every piece of paper I have from the move. Lease agreement. HOA bylaws from 2019. A single-page rules sheet that lists basic stuff like no loud music after 10, no parking on the grass, shovel your walk within 24 hours. Nothing about dry pavement, nothing about infrared thermometers, nothing about a winter addendum. I call the HOA office number listed on the paperwork. It rings 4 times and goes to voicemail. No callback. By noon, a violation notice appears in my mailbox. It is printed on Cedar Frost Snow Route Association letterhead, dated today, and it lists a $300 fine for failure to maintain safe pedestrian access. Violation code W-12A. At the bottom, in small print, it says I have 7 days to pay or the fine doubles, and I get reported to collections. There is no appeal process listed, no contact person, just a P.O. box and a payment portal link. I take a photo of the notice with my phone. Then I take photos of my cleared sidewalk from 4 angles. I grab a wet boot print photo packet I keep in my work bag, stuff I use when I am documenting fraud scenes, and I start building a file. Every photo gets a timestamp. Every piece of mail gets scanned. I learned this the hard way in my last neighborhood, where a landlord tried to pin damage on me that happened before I moved in. I will not get caught without proof again. That night, I get an email. It is from Cynthia Evans, sent from a Cedar Frost HOA address, with the subject line, Winter Compliance Update. The body of the email is 3 paragraphs of dense legalese, saying that the board has implemented emergency snow protocols, requiring immediate removal and surface treatment within 2 hours of storm end, and that failure to comply will result in escalating fines starting at $300. At the bottom it says the policy was approved at the October board meeting, and all residents are bound by majority vote even if they were not present. I checked the date on the email, sent today at 11:57 in the morning, 3 hours after she fined me. I screenshot it. The next morning, I am out at 6 clearing my walk before the sun is up, using a metal scraper to get every trace of ice off the concrete. I even throw down rock salt just to be safe. The temperature is 19 degrees. There is no moisture. The pavement is dry and rough. I take photos again, time-stamped, showing the bare concrete and the empty salt bag as proof I treated it. Cynthia shows up at 6:40 with her clipboard and thermometer. She walks the length of my sidewalk, crouches down, touches the concrete with her glove, then stands up and writes something on the clipboard. I watch from the front window, already dreading what is coming. At 7:15, another email. Violation notice. This time it is for excessive salt application, creating runoff that damages landscaping and violates county stormwater regulations. Another $300. I call the county stormwater office. The guy who answers sounds confused. He tells me salt runoff is not a violation unless I am dumping industrial quantities into a storm drain, and even then it is a warning first. He has never heard of an HOA enforcing stormwater rules on individual driveways. He suggests I get a copy of the HOA policy in writing. I try calling the HOA office again. Voicemail again. I leave a message asking for a copy of the winter addendum and the board meeting minutes from October. No callback. By the end of the week, I have 4 violation notices, $1,200 in fines, and no way to contact anyone with authority. The payment portal link does not work. The P.O. box address does not match any physical location I can find online. I start searching for Cedar Frost Snow Route Association on the county property records site, and I find the filing, but the board member list is 2 years out of date. Cynthia Evans is listed as assistant treasurer, not records custodian. The president is a man named Don Alvarez. I find his address in the same neighborhood, 2 streets over. I walk over there on Saturday morning. The driveway is covered in snow, no tire tracks, no footprints. Mail is piling up in the box. A neighbor sees me standing there and comes over, an older woman in a heavy coat and boots. She asks if I am looking for Don. I am, I say. I need to talk to him about HOA stuff. She shakes her head. Don moved out in September. He got transferred for work. The board has been a mess ever since. Cynthia took over most of the admin work, but nobody voted her in officially. There was supposed to be an election in November, but it never happened. I ask her if she knows anything about the winter policy. She frowns. She says there was talk about it in October, but the meeting got canceled because not enough people showed up. As far as she knows, nothing was ever voted on. Cynthia just started sending emails in November saying the rules were in effect. I thank her and head back home, mind racing. If the policy was never voted on, the fines are not legitimate. If Don is gone and Cynthia is acting without authority, the whole enforcement structure is fake. I need proof of that, and I know exactly how to get it. I draft a formal records request under Colorado's HOA disclosure laws. I ask for copies of all board meeting minutes from the past year, all emails sent to residents about policy changes, and all violation notices issued in my name with supporting documentation. I send it certified mail to the P.O. box, and I email a copy to the Cedar Frost HOA address. Colorado law says they have 10 business days to respond or provide a reason for delay. 3 days later, I get a reply from Cynthia. The email says records requests require a processing fee of $150 per hour, estimated 4 hours of labor, and I need to pay $600 up front before she will start pulling documents. I look up the statute. Colorado allows reasonable fees, but they have to be actual costs, not punitive. 4 hours to pull meeting minutes and print some emails is absurd. I reply and say I will pay actual copy costs, 10 cents per page, and I want an itemized invoice. I also remind her that failure to provide records within the statutory window can result in penalties. She does not reply. A week later, I get a notice taped to my door. It is not another violation. It is a gate access suspension. Cedar Frost has a main entrance gate with a keypad code and a remote system. The notice says my access has been temporarily suspended due to outstanding fines and failure to comply with records request payment. Effective immediately. I test the gate. The code does not work. The remote does not work. I am locked out of my own neighborhood. I park on the street outside the gate and walk in. It is a quarter mile to my unit. I am carrying groceries, my work laptop, and a growing sense that this is not just an HOA conflict anymore. This is targeted harassment. That night, I get another email. This one is from a generic law office address I have never seen before. The subject line says, "Notice of intent to file." The body is a template small claims complaint saying I owe the HOA $1,800 in fines plus administrative fees, and if I do not pay within 10 days, they will file in county court and I will be responsible for their legal costs. At the bottom, it lists a filing date 2 weeks from now, which happens to fall on the same weekend as my sister's wedding in Denver. I am in the wedding party. I cannot miss it. This is deliberate. I forward the email to a lawyer friend who does landlord-tenant work on the side. She reads it and calls me back within an hour. She says the email does not look like a real legal notice. The office address does not match any registered firm in Colorado Springs. The complaint template has formatting errors and missing case numbers. She thinks it is a scare tactic. But, she adds, if they do file, you need to be ready. You need documentation of everything. Meeting minutes, board votes, proof they never voted on the winter policy. Otherwise, a judge might just say you owe the fines and make you pay. I tell her about the records request and the $600 demand. She whistles low. That is retaliation. If you can prove they are blocking your access to records because you are disputing fines, that is a violation of state law. You might have a counterclaim. I ask what I need to do. She tells me to file a complaint with the state regulatory office that oversees HOAs, and to get a neutral third party to witness the access denial and the records blockade, preferably someone with no stake in the conflict. I think about the neighbor I met at Dawn's place. I walk back over there the next day. She is shoveling her driveway, moving slowly, bundled in layers. I introduce myself properly this time. Her name is Janet. She has lived in Cedar Frost for 9 years. She hates the HOA, but she is terrified of retaliation, so she keeps her head down. I explain what is happening, the fake fines, the records denial, the gate lockout, the small claims threat. I show her the emails on my phone. She listens, her face hardening. Cynthia did this to another guy last year, she says. He fought back, and she got him towed 3 times in 1 month for parking violations that did not exist. He gave up and moved out. I need a witness, I tell her. Someone who can confirm that the board is not functioning, that the winter policy was never voted on. You do not have to go to court, just a written statement. She hesitates. Then she looks at the gate down the street, the orange cones Cynthia has been moving around the neighborhood all week, the frozen mess everywhere. She nods. I will do it. But I am not going outside during the storm if she is watching. That weekend, another storm rolls in, 6 inches overnight. I am out at 5 in the morning with the snowblower, clearing my walk and driveway before the sun comes up. The machine is loud, but it is well within the noise ordinance window. I finish by 6:30. Clear and dry, salt down, no ice. At 7, Cynthia is at my door with the clipboard and thermometer. She does not say anything this time. She just writes and walks away. By 8, I have another email. Violation for operating gas-powered equipment during winter quiet hours. $300. The email claims quiet hours start at 6 in the morning from December through February. I checked the original rule sheet. Quiet hours are 10 at night to 7 in the morning, year-round. No mention of winter exceptions. I screenshot the rule sheet and reply to her email with the attachment, asking her to cite the specific ordinance. No reply. The next day, I get a formal tow warning. It says my vehicle is parked illegally in a fire lane and will be towed within 24 hours if not moved. My truck is parked in my assigned spot, clearly marked with my unit number. I take photos showing the parking space number, the painted lines, the unit placard. I forward them to Cynthia with a note saying the warning is invalid. No reply. At 2 in the morning, I wake up to the sound of a diesel engine idling outside. I look out the window and see a flatbed tow truck backing up to my truck. I run outside in my boots and jacket, no hat, yelling at the driver to stop. He stops, leaves the truck running, and climbs down with a clipboard. He is not hostile, just tired. Says he got a call from the HOA about an illegally parked vehicle and he has authorization to tow. I show him my lease, my assigned parking spot, the photos on my phone. He looks at the paperwork, then at my truck, then back at his clipboard. He shakes his head. Man, this does not match. The work order says fire lane, but you are clearly in a numbered spot. Someone screwed up. He radios his dispatcher. There is a back and forth I cannot hear clearly, and then he hangs up and tells me he is canceling the tow. He says I should file a complaint with the HOA because this is the third bogus call he has gotten from Cedar Frost in the past 2 months. I ask him if he can document the call. He says he will note it in his log, but I need to get the details from his dispatcher if I want an official record. He gives me a business card with the company number and drives off. I go back inside and I am shaking, not from the cold, but from the realization that Cynthia just tried to have my truck towed in the middle of the night for no reason, and if I had not woken up, I would have been stranded with no way to get to work or to my sister's wedding. I call the news tip line first thing in the morning. I get a staffer named Eric who listens to my story and asks a lot of questions. He tells me they get HOA complaints all the time, but most of them do not have enough documentation to run with. He says if I can get proof that the board is not legitimate, that the fines are fabricated, and that they are retaliating against me for requesting records, he can connect me with a reporter who covers housing issues. What kind of proof, I ask? Meeting minutes showing no vote on the winter policy. Proof that board members have left and no election was held. Proof that the records custodian is acting without authority. And ideally, something showing she is altering dates or reusing photos to generate fake violations. I tell him I am working on it. He says to call back when I have the paper trail locked down. If this sounds insane, wait until you hear what I found in the gate logs. Make sure you are subscribed so you do not miss HOA stories like this. I spend the next 3 days building the file. I request the gate access logs under the same records request, citing security concerns after the tow attempt. I get the tow company to send me a copy of the work order, with notes from the driver. I get Janet to write a short statement, confirming that Dawn left in September, that no election was held, and that she has never seen formal notice of a winter policy vote. I document every email, every violation notice, every photo, and I organize it all in a binder with tabs. Then I draft a formal complaint to the Colorado Division of Real Estate, which oversees HOA compliance. I cite the records denial, the fabricated fines, the gate lockout, and the tow attempt. I attach the full documentation packet. I send it certified mail, and I email a copy to the regulatory investigator assigned to El Paso County. 2 days later, I get a call from the investigator. She sounds young but sharp. She has reviewed my complaint, and she wants to schedule a site visit to inspect the HOA office and interview board members. She asks if I can be available next week. I tell her I can, but I also tell her about the small claims filing threat and the wedding conflict. She makes a note and says she will expedite the review. She also tells me that if the HOA is operating without a legitimate board, they are in violation of state law and could face sanctions, including suspension of enforcement authority. That same afternoon, I get a reply to my records request. It is from Cynthia, and it is the longest email I have gotten from her yet. She says the board has reviewed my request and determined that most of the documents I am asking for are protected by attorney-client privilege or executive session confidentiality. She will provide copies of the general meeting minutes from the past year, but not the detailed notes or emails. And the cost will be $450 for document retrieval, redaction, and administrative overhead. I forward the email to the investigator and to my lawyer friend. My lawyer friend calls me back within the hour. She is laughing. This is gold. They just admitted in writing that they are charging you a punitive fee to access public records, and the privilege claim is nonsense. Meeting minutes are not privileged unless they are discussing active litigation, and even then, only the litigation discussion can be redacted. She is making this up. I ask what I should do. She says to reply and reject the fee, demand unredacted minutes under Colorado statute, and give them a 5-day deadline. After that, you file a motion to compel, and you ask for attorney fees and sanctions. I send the reply that night. I keep it short and formal. I cite the statute, I reject the fee as excessive and unsupported, I demand the unredacted minutes, and I set a deadline of 5 business days. I CC the state investigator. Cynthia does not reply. The deadline passes. No documents, no reply. I file a motion to compel in county court, asking the judge to order the HOA to produce the records and to award me attorney fees for the cost of filing. My lawyer friend helps me draft it pro se, and I attach the full documentation trail, the original request, Cynthia's fee demand, my rejection, her silence. The hearing is scheduled for 2 weeks out, the day after my sister's wedding. I book a hotel in Denver for the weekend, and I plan to drive back Sunday night so I can be in court Monday morning. The Friday before the wedding, I get a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. The message is from a man who identifies himself as Bradley Kern, the property manager for the company that handles Cedar Frost. He says he just became aware of my records request and the state complaint, and he wants to meet in person to resolve the issue before it escalates further. I call him back. He sounds calm, almost friendly. He apologizes for the delay and says Cynthia has been handling records requests without supervision because the board has been in transition. He wants to meet at the management company office on Monday morning to go over the documents and see if we can settle the fines and the access issue. I tell him I will be out of town for the wedding. He suggests Tuesday morning instead. I agree. On Saturday, I am in Denver getting ready for the rehearsal dinner when I get an email from Cynthia. The subject line is urgent, final notice. The body says the HOA has filed a lien against my property for unpaid fines totaling $2,400, and that I have 10 days to pay in full or the lien will be reported to credit agencies, and I will be subject to foreclosure proceedings. I call Bradley immediately. He does not pick up. I leave a message saying I just got a lien notice and I need clarification before our meeting on Tuesday. I call my lawyer friend. She is at a family thing, but she checks the county recorder's office online. There is no lien filed. Cynthia is bluffing. I spend the rest of the weekend trying not to let this wreck my sister's wedding. I am in the wedding party, I have responsibilities, and I cannot afford to spiral. But every time I check my phone, I see another email from Cynthia, each one more threatening than the last. One says my gate access will be permanently revoked unless I pay by Monday. Another says the small claims case has been filed, and I will be served at my residence this week. None of it matches the timeline or the procedures I have researched. Sunday night, I drive back to Colorado Springs. I am exhausted, wired on coffee, and I have 4 hours of sleep in the past 2 days. I get home at midnight and I find a notice taped to my door. It is a summons for small claims court, dated last Friday, scheduled for this Wednesday. If I miss it, I lose by default. I take a photo of the summons and I email it to my lawyer friend and the state investigator. My lawyer friend replies within minutes. This is not a legitimate summons. It has no case number, no judge signature, no court seal. It is a fake designed to scare you into paying. The state investigator replies an hour later. She has moved up the site visit. She will be at the Cedar Frost office Tuesday morning at 9, and she wants me to be there as a witness. I show up at the management company office at 8:45. It is a small building near the highway, generic office park, icy parking lot. Bradley is waiting in the lobby. He is in his 50s, balding, wearing a polo shirt with the management company logo. He shakes my hand and leads me to a conference room. Cynthia is already there, sitting at the head of the table with a stack of file folders and her clipboard. She does not look surprised to see me. She does not look worried. She looks smug. Bradley sits down and opens a folder. He starts by saying he has reviewed my complaint and the records request, and he wants to find a resolution that works for everyone. He suggests that the HOA will waive the fines if I agree to drop the state complaint and the motion to compel, and he will personally ensure that I get copies of the meeting minutes at no cost. I ask if the winter policy was ever voted on. He hesitates. He looks at Cynthia. She does not say anything. He says the board approved a winter emergency protocol in October, but there is some confusion about whether it was a formal vote or an email consensus. He will need to check the minutes. I ask if I can see the minutes now. He says they are still being compiled. Cynthia interrupts. The minutes are protected. We have already explained this. If he wants to keep pushing, he can wait for the court to decide. I let her talk, because every word is helping me. I have my phone in my pocket, recording audio with her knowledge, a one-party consent state. Make it public, she says, leaning forward. I love watching people get embarrassed. You think you are the first person to complain? You think anyone cares? The board makes the rules. I enforce them. That is how it works. The state investigator walks in at 9 on the dot. She is younger than I expected, mid-30s, wearing a blazer and carrying a laptop bag. She introduces herself as Monica Ruiz, and she asks if everyone is present. Bradley stands up, suddenly nervous. He was not expecting her this early. He stammers something about the meeting being a private mediation. Monica cuts him off. This is not a mediation. This is a compliance inspection. I am here to review HOA governance records as part of an active state investigation. If you do not have the records available, I will note that in my report and we will proceed with enforcement action. She turns to me. Do you have the documentation you submitted with your complaint? I hand her the binder. She flips through it, taking notes, and then she looks at Bradley. I need to see the board meeting minutes for the past 12 months, the current board roster, proof of election for any board members seated after September, and copies of all violation notices issued to this resident. Bradley looks at Cynthia. Cynthia does not move. Monica waits. After a long silence, she closes the binder. I will note that the HOA has refused to produce records during an official inspection. That is a violation of Colorado Revised Statute Section 3833.3209. You have 5 business days to provide the records to my office, or I will recommend sanctions, including suspension of your enforcement authority and a referral to the Attorney General for investigation of fraud. She stands up, hands me the binder, and walks out. Cynthia finally speaks. This is harassment. I am calling our attorney. Monica pauses at the door. You do that. Make sure they understand that the state has jurisdiction over HOA compliance and that obstruction carries civil penalties up to $10,000 per violation. Have a good day. She leaves. The room is silent. Bradley sits down heavily. He looks at me. I did not know it was this bad. I thought she was just handling records requests. I did not know she was issuing fines without board approval. I stand up. I am done negotiating. I want every fine reversed. I want my gate access restored. I want a written apology, and I want confirmation that the winter policy was never legally adopted. If I do not have that by end of business tomorrow, I am moving forward with the motion to compel, and I am filing a counterclaim for harassment, defamation, and violation of my statutory rights under Colorado HOA law. Bradley nods. I will take care of it. I will have everything to you by tomorrow afternoon. I leave the office and walk out into the cold. My hands are shaking, but I feel lighter than I have in weeks. I have the recording. I have the investigator's inspection report. I have everything I need. The next afternoon, I get an email from Bradley. Attached are scanned copies of the board meeting minutes for the past year. October shows a meeting that was canceled due to lack of quorum. November shows no meeting at all. December shows a meeting with only 2 people present, neither of them Cynthia. There is no vote on a winter policy. There is no mention of emergency protocols. The minutes are handwritten, signed by Don Alvarez, dated before he moved out. The email also includes a letter on management company letterhead stating that all fines issued to me are voided. My gate access is restored, and the HOA acknowledges that the winter policy referenced in violation notices was never formally adopted by the board. The letter is signed by Bradley and copied to the state investigator. I forward the email to Eric at the news tip line. He calls me back within the hour and connects me with a reporter named Jessica, who covers housing and consumer issues. She wants to interview me on camera, and she wants to see the full documentation. We schedule a meeting for Thursday. On Wednesday, I am at the courthouse for the motion to compel hearing. The judge calls the case. No one from the HOA shows up. No attorney. No representative. The judge grants my motion by default and orders the HOA to pay my filing fees. The clerk tells me the small claims case Cynthia referenced was never actually filed. It was a fake. Thursday, I meet Jessica at a coffee shop near the courthouse. I bring the binder, the recording, the emails, everything. She listens to the whole story, takes notes, and records video of me explaining the timeline. She tells me she has been tracking Cedar Frost for months because they have had multiple complaints about fake fines and retaliation. My case is the first one with enough documentation to go public. The story runs on Friday. It is a 3-minute segment on the evening news, complete with on-screen graphics showing the fake fines, the records denial, and the state investigation. Jessica interviews Monica Ruiz on camera, and Monica confirms that Cedar Frost is under active investigation for governance violations, and that the state is reviewing whether criminal charges are warranted for fraud and extortion. The story goes viral locally. The HOA Facebook group explodes with comments from other residents who have been fined or harassed by Cynthia. People start sharing their own violation notices, their own records requests, their own stories of tow threats and gate lockouts. Within 48 hours, there are more than 60 complaints filed with the state. On Monday, I get a call from the insurance carrier that covers Cedar Frost's liability policy. The caller is a risk manager named Laura. She has seen the news story and she has reviewed the state complaint. She tells me the carrier is conducting an audit of the HOA's practices, and they are considering a non-renewal notice if the board does not implement immediate reforms. She asks if I can provide copies of my documentation for their review. I send her the full binder. Tuesday afternoon, I get an email from Bradley. The subject line is Emergency Board Meeting Notice. The body says the insurance carrier has issued a non-renewal warning and has demanded that Cedar Frost implement governance reforms within 10 days or lose coverage. The meeting is scheduled for Thursday evening at the clubhouse. All residents are invited. I show up early. The clubhouse exterior steps and entry sidewalk are packed with residents, most of them holding printed copies of violation notices, all of them angry. Janet is there. Eric from the news tip line is there. Jessica the reporter is there with a camera crew. Cynthia arrives at 6:30, walking up to the clubhouse entrance with her clipboard and her infrared thermometer. She sees the crowd, and she stops. Someone shouts a question about the fake fines. Someone else holds up a photo of a tow truck. The crowd closes in, not threatening but loud, demanding answers. Cynthia tries to push through. "Make it public," she yells, her voice cracking. I love watching people get embarrassed. I step forward. I have my phone in my hand, the recording app open. I play the clip out loud in the meeting so Karen cannot talk over it. Her own voice comes through the speaker. Clear and loud, make it public. I love watching people get embarrassed. "You think you are the first person to complain?" The board makes the rules. I enforce them. The crowd goes silent. Then someone starts clapping. Then everyone is clapping. Cynthia's face goes red. She turns and walks away, leaving the clipboard on the sidewalk. Bradley comes out of the clubhouse and calls the meeting to order. He reads a statement from the insurance carrier. Cedar Frost has 10 days to elect a new board, adopt transparent governance policies, establish an independent records custodian, and submit to quarterly audits, or the carrier will non-renew the policy and the neighborhood will be uninsurable. He opens the floor for nominations. Within 20 minutes, a new board is elected. Janet is voted in as treasurer. A retired paralegal named Marcus is voted in as president. A civil engineer named Diane is voted in as compliance officer. The first vote of the new board is to rescind all fines issued under the winter policy and to refund any payments made. The second vote is to remove Cynthia Evans from any HOA role and to ban her from issuing violations or accessing resident records. The third vote is to hire an independent management company to handle all enforcement and records requests, with full transparency and a cap on fees. The meeting ends at 9. I walk back to my unit through the snow, exhausted but relieved. The next morning, I get a letter from the state investigator. It is a formal report finding that Cedar Frost violated multiple provisions of Colorado HOA law, including improper governance, records obstruction, and retaliatory enforcement. The report recommends a consent order requiring the HOA to adopt the reforms outlined by the insurance carrier and to pay a civil penalty of $5,000 to the state. The HOA signs the consent order 2 days later. A week after that, I get an email from Cynthia. It is short. It says she is resigning from the HOA and moving out of Cedar Frost. She does not apologize. She does not explain. She just says she is done. I delete the email. A records request that exposes contradictions and edits becomes the foundation of the entire case. Every email Cynthia sent, every altered date on a violation notice, every fake claim of board approval, it all falls apart under scrutiny. The evidence is irrefutable. The payment confirmations prove I was never delinquent despite their winter fee blast, and the meeting minutes prove the winter policy was never voted on. When I escalate to a regional supervisor and force a written correction, the entire enforcement structure collapses. Karen's complaint is ruled unfounded with evidence cited, and she never recovers. The certified statement from a former board member describing Karen's pattern and motive seals it. Monica Ruiz includes the statement in her final report, and the insurance carrier uses it to justify the non-renewal warning. Cynthia's credibility is gone. The HOA votes to require actual evidence before fines, a complete reversal of the old system. The new board implements a policy requiring photo documentation, third-party verification, and a 7-day appeal window for every violation. No more fake notices. No more altered dates. No more retaliation. And the funny karma moment, Karen says nobody complains, and a stack of complaints appears. Literally. At the emergency board meeting, Marcus, the new president, brings a cardboard box filled with printed complaints from residents, more than 60 in total, all documenting harassment, fake fines, and retaliation by Cynthia. He dumps the box on the table in front of where she was supposed to sit, and the papers spill everywhere. The whole room laughs. Cynthia never shows up to defend herself. The insurance carrier issues a non-renewal warning, demands reforms within days, and the board caves because the whole neighborhood could lose coverage. It is the fastest HOA collapse I have ever seen. 10 days from the news story to the consent order. 2 weeks from the first fake fine to a completely new board. Cynthia tried to build an empire on fake rules and punitive fees, and it all came down the moment someone finally had the documentation to fight back. I still live in Cedar Frost. The new board is functional, transparent, and reasonable. The winter policy they eventually adopted is simple: shovel within 24 hours, no thermometer readings, no dry pavement requirements, no fake emergency protocols. Gate access works. Violations are rare and always documented. The neighborhood is quiet again. I keep the binder on a shelf in my office, just in case. I learned my lesson: document everything, trust no one, and never assume the people in charge are acting in good faith. In an HOA conflict, the paper trail is everything. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.